All right, we are recording. Perfect. So, and what I'll do too, everyone don't forget, you can ask questions anytime, just throw it in the chat, and I'm sure Dipalli would love to answer. So thank you for joining us today. Really excited. Too bad we couldn't do it in person. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
But very fortunate and happy to have you join us for Training Thursday. So how long have we known each other? 3, 4, 5 years, something like that now?
Yeah, I think more than 4 years now.
Okay, yeah, and we met originally, you were working at Mindbridge.
Mindbridge, yes.
And it was you and, who was that, Tamar? Was he the sales guy?
Timur, yes, exactly. Yeah.
That seems like ages ago, so a lot has been changed then, right? So basically, maybe you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you came to today.
Oh yeah, sure. So I started my career 17 years back. Not a lot of it is on LinkedIn, actually. I started an IT company. I started to work at an IT company as a PR person and the only marketing person. And it was basically marketing software to North America.
Yeah.
And I worked there for two years, and my boss at that time, who was very much digitally inclined, and he was trying to do something that didn't even exist in 2002, 2003. He got frustrated and he left, for a company that made software, so game software and everything. And then he asked me to join him.
Yeah.
Right after I joined this company, Disney took over the company. So I became a Disney employee.
Wow.
And which was very exciting. I worked there for 3 years as a Disney employee, learned so much about, the stuff that we do now. Disney was doing it like back then.
Nice.
And back then for marketing, they had pipeline goals and revenue goals. And there was this big concept of actions versus results. So, none of the managers were, allowed to report on actions, like what actions you took this week, but what basically impact you made. Nice. So that was really interesting. Then I got married and I came to Canada. Couldn't find a job for myself for so long.
Yeah.
2 years I actually struggled. Got into TD and in call center, and then moved into marketing. While in marketing, I was a part of a big project, and the challenge was they were not getting enough conversions from calls to sales of insurance products. So created a marketing program for which I was recognized, part of the leadership pipeline program. Then I was given a chance to take the executive MBA. And I realized that I don't want to be in the financial field, want to totally be in the tech field.
Yeah.
So from then on, moved to different startups, learned a lot at startups. Mindbridge AI was one of the startups I worked with, amazing company. And then since then, I've moved to B2B, technical sales cycles, telecom kind of thing, but amazing, lovely learnings all throughout my career into different industries.
Absolutely. So a lot of experience over the years, right?
Yeah, different industries actually, which and I never felt actually that what I learned into one industry would be helpful in the other. But when I tried to bring those learnings to the newer industry, I really found a lot of them worked. So it's all about reinventing yourself and trying to experiment as much as you can with different things you've learned. You never even know what's in your subconscious until you experiment with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for example, with Mindbridge, it's something nobody else is doing, right? So to come in there and, approach marketing, how do you approach that? What was your approach?
Yeah, so Mindbridge, when I joined Mindbridge, I was the 21st or the 23rd employee. And when I left, there were 80 employees at that time at Mindbridge. I was the only marketing person when I joined, and of course, when I left, we had a big team there. So the concept for Mindbridge was that it was in a very traditional industry. It was in the audit industry, so CAs, and they were not used to AI as a concept that really was too much for them, and the concept would actually feel like it's replacing them. So it was a big challenge from a marketing perspective how to bring them into the game. So the approach that I took was first of all create industry, I would say, acceptance, because auditing is a lot about industry recognition and industry level certifications and all that stuff. So there was some work on the product side that needed to be done. So got in touch with a lot of industry related organizations, tried to influence the influencers. That was one big thing. The second one was to find the customers, but also to basically find the champions within those prospect segments. So just because it is a new concept, so it was very important. Then the third was to basically educate, about what AI does, and a lot of it, we really quickly realized that the mid-level people in the auditing would not understand that concept because they'd be worried about being replaced.
Yeah.
So we had to take a totally different view. So we had to basically have a top-down approach, industry approach, talking about AI in general, a lot on the thought leadership side that would bring in a lot of customers at the end. But it was totally a top-down approach and a surround sound in the industry kind of an approach.
Yeah. I like that. And it actually was interesting how you said, you gain industry acceptance and hooking up with the organizations, finding those champion customers and then educating. And really all that can be done through, you did the conference, Impact AI, which really was achieving all of those goals, right?
Yeah, that was interesting. You were a part of that conference. Yeah, you were a big part. SEO Plus was a big part of that conference. And basically it was Ellie's vision. And the conference was in May, and they were in January, I started to work on it, and it was just me and Ellie starting, just to start the program. It was just me and Ellie. And then we had a lot of support from the industries and partners like you. But the goal was actually, twofold: to first involve the government into taking note of what we are doing. And then the second was to also involve the industry influencers. And we couldn't have done it just by going digital. So it was, for something like Mindbridge, it was just a big thing to do this at scale. So Algonquin helped. So Doug from Algonquin helped a lot. Partners like you helped a lot. But what that did as well was it really brought us into the map. And there was a lot of research work that was done. I used to really research a lot as to what's going to happen that week. And we got to know that Samsung is coming to Canada and, coming up with this big, research lab in Toronto. So, it was very strategic. And then we asked Samsung to come to, the Impact AI. It was amazing. It was a lot of marketing was done on the digital plus on the event side. So it was a perfect mix of offline and online kind of marketing approach. Yeah.
And there were some really good speakers that day. I remember one of my favorite was the guy from Amazon.
Amazon, yeah.
He was classic. He was wearing a tie-dye shirt. This guy was good, but he was an awesome speaker, so entertaining. And that was cool. So how did you? Were you really involved in getting? Oh yeah, Rory was there. Healthy actually at the time. Were you involved in kind of working to get some of those speakers and whatnot? Were you leveraging your network a little bit?
Absolutely. So the conference had never existed before, right? So there was no previous list that we were working on. So we had no previous sponsors. So it started with a very strong strategy also as to what the first conference would look like. We didn't want to go with a concept that was very narrow. We wanted to basically start with a very, very broad concept of what it means for various industries, and it was strategically chosen which industries that we would talk about.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, the second challenge we had was to basically get people on the seats there. So we had no list. So we had to develop the whole list. And my experience with Thai Con came in handy, of course. And then the third was, there was very little of who we knew. Of course, Ellie's connections were big as well. But then I had to really go and seek the speakers. So one thing actually led to the other. So a lot of the, I would say a lot of the speakers that were keynote, I had to go and get them. So it was all about, going on LinkedIn, working the emails, sending them an email. And it was like cold. It was all cold. Yeah. And like one thing led to the other. So yeah, it was a lot of hard work on many fronts. So speaker recruitment and sponsorship recruitment, we didn't spend a penny on our side. It was all sponsor led, and because we couldn't afford at that time. Now we can. So it was really interesting. Yeah.
I love that. So I mean, obviously you're pretty well known in the community. You do a ton of networking and stuff like that. Like, what is a tip you could give to some of the team to help put yourself out there and how to make acquaintances and whatnot?
So one thing I would really say is find an organization that that does not have a lot of red tape. So and be asked to be a part of that committee. So that's how I got involved with Thai. I basically, my first job was to basically hold the mic. And that was my first volunteer job. So volunteer with an organization that you feel closely about.
Yeah.
And then get out of your comfort zone when you're volunteering with them. So, choose the hardest job and try to achieve some goals for that particular function. So for Thai, like one of the challenges they had were marketing. So not very strong on the content side, and growing the list and growing the membership. That was one. The second one was sponsors. So as well. So I helped on both the sides, and it all involved cold calling, picking up the phone, sending emails, figuring out a pitch. So I would say that is the first thing. The second thing is go and ask to meet as many people as you can. So for me, any volunteering stuff that I do has nothing to do with what I do at my work. So it is something that feeds my soul. So that's something that's something I did, and I did some of the I took up some projects that really had nothing to do with what I did, and then help people out, and then the word just moves around. So that's one of the things I did. So and that's how I got involved with Invest Ottawa and some of the other organizations that I volunteer with. But I love to volunteer, and it is a discipline. It takes a lot.
It's definitely a snowball effect, right? You start with 1, and then it becomes 3, and then it becomes 10, and then and it just kind of gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Like if you're in sponsorship, or if you're in speaker recruitment, that really helps the organization. Those are like two ways people, like organizations, struggle with a lot. So that's what I picked, and that's what I excelled in. And yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you manage a team, and you've managed teams. Like, what's your best tip for managing a team?
So as a leader, I think my biggest job is to ensure that people are matched. Their talents are matched to the job, and not necessarily, the job is matched to the talent, because sometimes you hire people and you think a certain way about them, and they have a genuine interest around something else, right? So people behave differently in interviews, right?
Yeah, of
So,
course.
so you have to ensure that there's a basic level that you like the person likes you, and there's a potential. And then if something does not really work or click for what they were hired in, give them like 60% chance to do what they were hired to do, and then give them 44% chance to do what they naturally incline towards.
Mhm.
That's a big one for me. So it's important for you to ensure as a leader that they are growing and they are motivated. It's very important for you to know what really motivates them. For some, it could be title. For some, it could be bigger responsibility. For some, it could be just getting visibility at the C level. So give them what you really think are their motivators, and give them stretch goals, and then ask them to basically work towards those stretch goals. Some people are just motivated by that. I've seen like people, me giving stretch goals to them, and they just love it. They immerse themselves in it and they come out with flying colors. So it's a lot about empathy too, being very, very real with them.
Absolutely. So empathy, right? Communication. How do you align kind of personal goals and business goals?
Very important. So that's such a great question, Brock. So there are two kinds of chats we have during the week. One is totally one-on-one, that is based on what they really want, and I tell them that put 4 hours to what you feel passionately about or extra projects. It's very important then to also talk about the business goals, because that's the reason why they are there, or I'm here, or anyone else is there, or all of us are getting paid. So it's very important for them to understand that there's a business goal, but unless you're motivated towards that goal, or you're happy, or you feel whatever your motivation is, if you don't get that, you will not be able to work towards that. So I give them at least 20% time of the week to work on something that they really like. And I'll give you an example. So in my previous life, I had someone who really wanted to, his motivation was to be in front of the C people and give some kind of a presentation to them. And this person was in Salesforce, and he was in sales ops, and he wanted to just give. He came up with a lot of ideas, and some of them worked, some of them didn't work. And from my one-on-one, I understood that he just wants some visibility in C level. So one of the things I asked him to do is come up with a project that really shows me data-wise that what I can't really figure out. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give you a chance to present it in front of the C level. But it's not only about visibility in front of C level. When you talk to the C level, you have to connect the dots, and you have to say, by doing this, this is the goal that you're going to meet. So this is one thing that we did, and the person was really, really successful. And then we started like a Salesforce program, and then we found that we did achieve some parts of that goal that he mentioned to the C level about. So it's all about connecting the dots, ensuring that people feel appreciated, they feel stretched as well, they feel challenged.
Yeah.
But also they have some way to work on something that they really love.
Yeah.
Only then it could totally, come to the business side of it. Yeah. So there's a human side to business.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what are some things that help spark your creativity?
I love to travel. That sparks my creativity, and it's not a good time to travel for sure. So one thing that I really do is I unplug a lot. I never used to do that, but I unplug a lot now. So at 5 p.m. I've unplugged. And one of the things that I've started to do is I've started to talk about some of the problems to my 11-year-old. And I asked him a lot of questions. Hey, why do you think people are not opening our emails? He comes up with like bizarre answers, which are hilarious, but I think it just sparks some part of the creativity. When I was able to travel, I used to travel a lot and used to actually save some amount from my salary to go for the conferences that otherwise my company would not be able to send me to. Um, and I have inspired myself a lot by just being in conferences, not necessarily in marketing,
Yeah.
but various different kinds, of so that travel, talking to my 11-year-old son,
Mhm.
uh, saving some money for conferences that have nothing to do with marketing,
Yeah.
helps a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I
very
like the one with talking to your son definitely resonates with me. I know, I'm thinking of a day a couple weeks ago. It was a long day, a hard day, and I came back and it was, I wanted to go sit in the hot tub just to relax. And my daughter, she's turning 5 in a week, but basically she wanted to come in. I was like, oh, I don't want you coming in. I don't want to, whatever. She ended up coming in, and we were just talking there, and she was just going on about her day and everything. And it was like, I felt guilty after. I was like, wow, like this, this little human's living her own life. She's got, she can communicate all these things just like one of us, right? And like, it's pretty
exactly.
amazing when you speak with
Oh,
children, the things they say.
I wonder 5-year-olds. I love them at that age.
I like that.
I love it.
So, are you a big reader at all, Dipalli? Do you read any
I
books?
am. I am. I read this year up until now. I have read 4 books, and I'm reading, a new one. I'm reading That Will Never Work. I'm reading this one.
That Will Never Work. The Birth of Netflix, the Amazing. Oh, that's cool. Who wrote
Yeah,
that?
yeah. This is the one I'm halfway through. It's a very cool story of a life of an idea,
Yeah.
and how Mark actually and Reed Hastings is one of the investors. How they came up, how they basically came up with so many bad ideas that at the end of the day, then they came up with, like, mailing DVDs out, and then after that, going Netflix. So it's a very interesting story of how he was told by various investors how Netflix or an idea like Netflix or mail out movie will never work for so many reasons, and how it really worked. So it's a life of an idea kind of a story. It's lovely,
That's cool.
lovely.
Well, what's
Yeah.
interesting about that one, I do remember when people were mailing them out, even like 6, 7 years ago, outside of a Loblaws, you could find a place, you could rent the DVD, you put it back in the machine, like a vending machine. And there was actually a company in Ottawa over 10 years ago that did it. I can't remember the exact name of them, but they actually were doing the delivery of the DVDs and stuff like that.
Oh
Pretty
my
big
God.
company near Ontario's, but I can't remember the exact name, but they were doing pretty well actually for Canada-wise.
It is, and what is really interesting, that really came out of the movie is that, sorry, not the movie, sorry, the book. Up until now, that there's this underlying thing as to don't assume what your customers will like or not. You have to start experimenting with what they like. We like going to Blockbuster was a part of all our, like, Fridays and Saturdays. Like, that was kind of an outing we used to go and browse through.
Yeah.
But then, don't assume what your customers will or will not like, because until you experiment with it, based on that data, go and take the next steps. But don't assume. It was really interesting to see that theme that came out, because people were assuming that something like this will never work. Even, like, in the book, it mentions that how the first week of Netflix, uh, I think it was in US, that they launched online. Um, there were not many takers, so not a lot of people were logging in and watching Netflix. And then how slowly they changed and experimented with adding themes, and then serving them something that is little bit more personalized. Very early days of AI and machine learning, not AI, machine learning. So it was very interesting. And at that time as well, when they launched the first 2 weeks, people were telling them, this is a bad idea. And Mark actually wanted to go and experiment.
Mhm.
So the whole learning is that if you really think you have a genuinely good idea, don't let any stupid talk you out of it.
I mean, in marketing, we definitely I think we all make a lot of assumptions, right?
Yeah.
Which is challenging. Like, how do you balance, right? You do need to make assumptions. Like at the beginning of a campaign, you only have so much time. You can do analysis or research before you have to hit the ground running. You have to start, get some action. So how do you balance that?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, not a lot of it is experimentation, but there definitely are some parts of experimentation. I do tell, the CEO or I'm working with that, we will be experimenting a lot. So there is a little bit of challenge of how much experimentation you want to do. It also depends on which industry you're in and what kind of product it is and what kind of a demand it is. So if the demand, if it's a mature product, and what is your intent? If your intent is to get them to notice you, then you'll have to experiment with some kind of a content that really gets them to take action or take notice.
Yeah.
And take note. So it depends on what kind of an intent you want out of the campaign. If it's like a mature market and you want to do lead gen, then what experiments could you do, right? You could come up with the most interesting report or a white paper for them to download something. So there are so many parameters to it. It depends on the demand type. It depends on the industry. It depends on if the product is an innovative product or it's kind of a replacement of lets you do something better, or there is no leverage, right? So it depends on those things. The more mature a product is, the more experimentation it needs.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, actually, what's funny, a couple of previous speakers talked about some interesting marketing campaigns they've worked on. So, one was Stephen Beamish. I don't know if you know him through Invest Ottawa, but he talked about where they basically put, ads on the side of a bus. They traveled around, they did events. He's super successful, one of the most successful market events, or it was for Mitel, I believe. Did really well. And then, we had Rob Lane in the other day, and you'd think something similar was transportation with ads. They took out a plane with a banner on the back. The plane crashed.
That is so interesting. That reminds me of one of the interesting campaigns, and it definitely came out with people saying that will definitely not work, Dipalli, not worth it. So I literally had to stand my ground, and I had to say, I know it will work. And from inside, I was like, oh my God, I hope. And this was like an ABM campaign. And I can't name the company, but it's an ABM campaign, in a telecom, based industry, industry that is used to being marketed a certain way, and our goal was to basically bypass an RFX process, and so that would not happen unless you involve like executives, right? So you literally have to touch the executives, the mid-level managers, and so it was very tough. Salespeople were not able to get through any of these executives. They tried, they weren't able to. So we had to really come up with like a campaign that is multi, so offline and online. So we started to we did a research project on that customers, and we asked on a survey that, okay, what do you think about these aspects of these? And so we asked about a survey, and it was interesting. We mailed out that report to the executive, and then after a few days, we mailed out a version of that report to the middle level managers that was important for that. So totally on the operational side of it. Then third thing we did is that we basically worked with a third party, and we asked them that, are these people in your list? And because of the confidentiality, they could not say these people, yes, are in the list or not, but they definitely told us, well, this company is in our database. So we worked with that. and we created like a ebook on, without naming the company and all that stuff. And that report was not published, the one that we sent to the executives, because it was very confidential. And we said, hey, just this is something that we wanted to bring to your notice. Then, because it was multi-dimensional, we also had inside sales at that time who used to report to me. And then that inside sales started to call these executives and this mid-level managers while they were, getting these reports in the direct mail. And she could just not get through those executives. And one of them said yes to the meeting, but never came. So this was the first part of the phase. We looked at the data and we said, okay, these people have received our reports. The executive has received the report. We sent a handwritten note to them. The mid-managers have received the report. They've also received some kind of an information about the report through a third party. We know all this stuff. And we also know from the software that they're coming to our website and they're checking us out. And but these people are not coming up for demo. So, which was basically our goal, to get these people to the demo and to get them to talk to us. So what we did is we asked the inside sales to book a call again, and then we sent them Starbucks coffee from their local Starbucks store. And we said, hey, this is the coffee we are sending you, and next time when you show up for the demo, we're going to send you a pizza. So we sent a pizza to all the people who would otherwise attend the demo, and we also sent them Starbucks coffee. It was very interesting. People said this will not really work, and it did work. And at the end, we did get 300,000 worth of deal out of that.
Wow. That's cool. Actually, I was talking recently to Amanda about the idea. I think it would do well right now is like a virtual lunch and learn. So you send them a $15, $20 gift card for Uber Eats, which you can actually just upload a list and it'll create all the codes for you, and you can set limits. It's pretty sweet actually. So managing that versus like years ago trying to coordinate that would be impossible. So it's pretty cool technology if you can leverage it, right?
It is like Marketo. In fact, on that particular campaign, Marketo has this direct mailer level as well. You would know. So we basically use that as well. So, it was all a part of the campaign. But things need different ideas, and you have to experiment with different ideas. Send them. I recently received a campaign where someone was trying to, a company was trying to say, hey, we're going to give this AirPod to you for free, even if you don't buy from us. So I'm sending this AirPod to you. Come to the demo and use the AirPod, and even if you don't buy from us, just keep the AirPod.
Yeah, I like that. So you also mentioned a little bit, obviously there's symbiosis between marketing and sales having to work together on initiatives. How do you, what's a good tip for when you're working with sales? How do you, prove your value as a marketer?
Yeah, and it's such a valid question, because for longest time, sales would think that what marketing would do is that they're going to make presentations for them, they're going to arrange for events for them and all that stuff. But it's also about, for the longest time, marketers have really not worried about the real close of the business kind of KPIs. So I think it started from the fear of marketers not being able to commit to a number, and just, hiding themselves behind number of leads and number of, this is the traffic that's coming in, which really not a lot of people would worry about unless there is like an end goal of what that traffic would lead to. So the biggest thing I do is I ask sales what their goal is, what their sales strategy looks like, what are the accounts that they're trying to target, and what their challenges are. And then I start with, here's what I think that we should do. And one of the things that I go and I instantly I make a statement by saying that we are not a marketing team only. So we are a smart marketing team, so sales and marketing team.
Yeah.
So I instantly make that statement. And I say that I'm here to help you close the deal. So some of them always thought that there are marketing campaigns and then there are sales campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
I go and demolish that idea altogether. So I say, we're going to give you the prospects, but that's not the only thing we would do. So let's look at your pipeline. Let's see how many deals are sitting at 5%, 10%, 40%, and let's find a way to then market to them. And in some of the companies, there are these are like newer concepts. Sometimes it's all about upselling the previous customers, but nobody's thinking about, okay, how do we influence the pipeline? How do we influence the opportunities that are sitting in your in your how do we move this, right? So one of the examples is that one of the previous companies was that this is the one conversation I had with the salesperson, and I saw that a lot of his deals were sitting at 30%, 40%. So one of the things we did was we started to do campaigns towards those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we saw was these people started to get interested again. And so we saw people visiting that website, forwarding those emails to some of the colleagues. And that was an interesting data point for the salesperson. And we sent all this data to the salesperson. And I try not to send in an email because then it will get lost. You will not get a meeting with the salespeople because they're always on the move. So I said, okay, I have some interesting news about your pipeline. Let's go on a call. As soon as I get them to go on a call, I show them the data, and that's what it's all about, getting them to follow, right? So now we've got them interested. They now know that there's a marketing people who have reinvigorated it. Let me go and follow up. And two of those deals did close. So, it's all about aligning yourself with their goal and their sales strategy, which not a lot of marketers talk about. But it's very important.
I love that. That's really great feedback. Yeah, I think it's in specifically the pipeline and opportunities, the amount of gold in the CRM, it's probably, you can't even think about it, right? Like,
yeah, and sales don't love CRM, right? They don't like Salesforce. Some of the salespeople don't like Salesforce. They just want to sell.
Yeah.
So what they do not want, because it's difficult for them to follow up with like each and every lead, and then doing the account management and also following up on the opportunities, and on the back they have RFIs, RFPs to respond to. So it's very difficult. So we all know they need a hand in trying to navigate Salesforce or CRM or whatever that is. But you as a marketing department have the capacity to automate some of the stuff with what the technology has been able to deliver. So why not use it to influence those and then get them going for them? I think you need one, even if you're able to prove once that you can do it, you will see that they will come back to you again and again. So it's very interesting. You have to, as a marketing department, be uncomfortable, at first, and then being comfortable with committing to a number. It's very important.
Great advice. Yeah. So at this time, usually what I like to do, we'll kind of open the floor to questions. So I see there's already a number of questions already built up. So I'll kind of run through them one by one.
Yeah.
So this is from Amanda. You mentioned being a challenge lover. These have obviously been challenging times overall, with a lot of urgency, stress, and trying to maintain momentum in a work-from-home environment. What advice do you have to not only handle challenging times, but reframe so you can enjoy/thrive in them?
Ooh, Amanda, what a great question. Oh, yes, I am actually a challenge lover. I love it when people give me a problem, because then that just gets me thinking. Very challenging times for you as a company, for you as for your customers. One of the ways that I deal with challenge, at least at the team level and the company level, is one of the things that I've not been able to do it, but I have started to block times for myself to go out, and even in the workday, for half an hour, and I've tried to block it with my team members. That's one thing that I say, time for a walk, time for a virtual lunch. From a customer's perspective, what we've tried to do is, reach out to them without any goals. It's very important, coming up with a COVID-19 statement, all that is all good. We have to do from a compliance perspective, many perspectives. But it's, how it's true is that you have to start networking when you don't need it. And it's the same concept for selling and for how to navigate this challenge as well. Try to reach out to your customers without any goals, without any anything back. If you don't hear from them back, that's okay too. But try reaching out, and you'll be surprised how many of them would be willing to reply to you, and reaching out. So it's amazing. This is how I kind of navigate the challenge. But this also gives you a time to rethink all your strategies, whether it's business, whether it's marketing. This is a great time to look at the data, all the stuff that you've not been able to do up until now because you were writing the content or you were doing this, you were doing that. Great time to build your pipeline, to look at your targets again and notice what they are really doing. So one of the examples I'll give you is that I'm starting an ABM campaign at the company that I work with. And the way I'm doing it is that I am now looking at a lot of industry data, and I'm also looking at the targets and what they're doing. And I'm making note on LinkedIn of what they are kind of posting. And, then I'll ensure that I have sales reach out to them. So it's a great time to rethink and reframe the problem for them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the communication aspect, like I know for myself, some of the most frank conversations I've had with people in my network have been in the last 6-7 weeks, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks.
Kara, what was the biggest takeaway from planning the Impact AI conference?
What was the
biggest takeaway? What was your biggest takeaway?
That have courage and stand your ground. And Brock knows about the story, but there were many people who doubted that this will not happen. And if this happens, it will be very low quality, not enough people will come. If you really think it's a good idea and you have, even if you don't have a full-fledged plan ready, find just one person who believes in you. And that was Ellie Fathi for me. Just find that one person and go for it. Try to be as logical as you can. Try to get some early wins. For me, it was getting one sponsor and then getting 1 or 2 speakers. And then it will go. But yeah, if you have to fly solo, fly solo.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Rory, would you be able to share with the group how the Incognito Paid Ads campaign began, how one lead in South Africa generated enough interest to kick things off?
Rory, you're just amazing. Yeah, we've been working with SEO Plus. I'm trying to work with SEO Plus, and I've seen the work you guys do. I hear about you guys a lot, and of course, I know how you guys are. So the paid ads are actually doing really, really well. There was this one guy from South Africa. He reached out to us and said, hey, send me some more details about your company. And now what we're doing is that trying to figure out if he's the right person, and if he's not the right stakeholder, if he can introduce us to the right stakeholders. So the paid ads are really doing very well. Even the LinkedIn campaign is doing very well. It was more than 50%. 50% people clicked on our email. Mm-hmm. And certainly the team is learning a lot from your experience, Rory.
That's great. Ankita, how challenging was it for you as an immigrant delving into the whole entrepreneurial stream in Canada?
Oh my God, that was really tough. Entrepreneurial ecosystem has changed a lot in Ottawa in the last 5 years. Even before 5-6 years, you wouldn't hear entrepreneurs talking as much. There were things happening in different pockets, but there was no talk about entrepreneurship in general at the government level, at the industry level. So it was very tough when I started. I just genuinely, I'm not an entrepreneur in a lot of sense, but what I really do, why I really feel about entrepreneurs is back because it takes a lot to be an entrepreneur. um, uh, I, I just appreciate the drive they have, the risk taking ability that they have, and the readiness to sell that they have. So I feel very much for them, and I always try to help as many entrepreneurs as I can. I do that a lot on the back end. So I kind of consult with a lot of entrepreneurs, of course, free of cost, telling them about what they could do and where I can help with.
Mhm.
As an immigrant, it's very tough to be an entrepreneur because you're trying to figure out a lot of things plus being an entrepreneur. The biggest tip I would give to any entrepreneur who is an immigrant is unlearn from where you're coming, and be open to meeting as many organizations as you can. If you are trying to pitch someone to something, ask one of your friends who's from this country to look at your pitch and take some of the suggestions, and then reach out. Don't feel bad about. Don't take it to heart. Take it seriously, but don't take it to heart. The advice, because you're still trying to learn the new country and the new stuff. Um, yeah, those are some of the stuff, and of course, like there's government organizations, resources, and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Trust the process.
That's great. Hardy, you mentioned sometimes we have to experiment with distinct tactics when it comes to clients. What they what they're gonna like and what they're not. For this, the important thing is to stay confident all the time, which is not easy. How do you keep up during these kinds of difficulties?
So staying confident is a process, right? So the reason you're confident right now is because you probably have made mistakes in the past, and you have owned it and you've learned from them. So being confident is a process that you have to arrive at, and so be open to making mistakes and owning them. One thing that I do is that I extensively research online. I talk to my friends in the industry a lot, and I have a full folder of various different kinds of campaigns and their results. So I would say I'm very disciplined about making notes of the different kinds of campaigns, what other industries are doing, what my friend told me, if there's a tool that I have to look for. So I have a big file folder for that
Mhm.
that I look at. So if you do not have the confidence, because sometimes you're working on it, sometimes you're arriving, sometimes it's not easy to be confident all the time, but just be prepared from your research perspective,
Mhm.
uh, and be ready to give examples and own the mistake if that is the thing. um, Preparedness is really important.
It's great that I'm behind you. You got that. If you're confident, you're beautiful. So kind of
Oh yeah,
right
I
there.
used to do it a lot. Oh my god, I used to fake it a lot, and sometimes I have to fake it, um, but it's a muscle.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Confidence is a muscle. You have to work on it.
it is. Lisa, I love your girl boss message in the back. What have your experiences been like as a woman in the tech industry? Do you have any advice for us girl bosses to become leaders and champions in our roles?
Absolutely. It was very tough. Very, very tough. There are two things that I constantly used to face. One is you're not from the same industry, so how can we trust you? And then the second is, oh my God, like it's a boys' club. You won't be able to get into it, and not necessarily in the company, but it could be the industry that I'm serving. So I faced it a lot. First thing I did was to really behave as if there was no glass ceiling.
Yeah.
Uh, even if I acknowledged it, I never verbalized it, because for people to take note of you, it will all depend on your results. Second thing is be very vocal about what you have added to the project. Sometimes we just don't speak because we feel, oh my God, I hope I don't find, look cocky or, sound someone who's self-serving. But the biggest secret to being a girl boss is to be able to say that if I have done this work, howsoever minimal it is, I should put it on the table and just talk about it, that this is what I did, and get an understanding with your boss. If you have a boss, get an understanding with the boss that I would like to talk about it, and explain why you would like to talk about it. Sometimes you have to navigate the different people, and you have to find if you're working in an organization where your boss might not be supportive, very important to book like small coffee sessions with other stakeholders in the organization and talk about it. So, like, yeah, I can go on and on about that. But yeah, first of all, pretend as if there's nothing. Second, be very much goal oriented. Look at the goal and say, okay, I need to achieve that for people to take note of me. You have one, then people start to listen to you. Yeah.
The results-based approach.
Yes.
You mentioned that earlier with one of your first roles where they weren't concerned about activities, they were more focused on impact or results. So how what was your approach to that?
That's always been my approach. Always been my approach. And it, like, if you ask about the number that people are trying to hit or the objective that they're trying to achieve, then it solves a lot of things. First of all, you build your confidence. Second of all, people start to notice you. And third is that you basically learn something new about yourself that you've not learned before. It makes you also courageous. So you need to dare ask that question, and then you need to then execute on it. And don't be scared to report on the results. Maybe it's not something that you have done. It could be a problem with the product, could be a problem with the go-to-market strategy. So yeah, like that has always been. I leave my home thinking that what is it that I need to achieve to basically achieve that big goal. Very much goal oriented, but I don't forget that it's the people who are really trying to achieve this goal for you. So you have to be very empathetic towards them.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Dipalli. Well, I'll see if anyone else has any other questions. Last chance. I don't know if we have any more now. So Dipalli, I just want to say a huge thank you to you on behalf of the team. Really great to hear your experiences and learn something new about you every time we talk. So.
Oh no, thank you so much to the team. I love working with SEO Plus, and I love working with you guys even before I was a client. So like I know you guys. I love working with you guys. It's amazing. Thank you for giving me this chance. Like really.
Absolutely, more than appreciate it. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Send me. I live on LinkedIn.
There you go. Perfect. All right, cool. Really appreciate it, Dipalli. Take care.
Okay, same here. All right, thanks so much, guys. Bye now.
See you.
Thanks, Dipalli.